Today I want to give my review of the DJI RS3 Mini. I have been using it for the last 5 or 6 months, pretty much since it dropped off the shelves. I ordered one immediately and got it and have been using it ever since. So I wanted to give my long-term thoughts, specifically as a die-hard Steadicam user. I have a video on this channel where I basically swore that I much preferred Steadicams over gimbals. I stood by that until this guy. This guy has really changed my mind, and I want to talk about why, when I use it, when I don't use it, all of that kind of stuff. But basically, he has completely replaced my Steadicam. Really, there's 2 reasons. One, this is the first gimbal I've used that I have really enjoyed using. And 2, my wrist has gotten a little bit injured from using the Steadicam too much. Having all of the weight on this one wrist and, shooting for long times at weddings, events, even on creative projects. So I damaged my wrist a bit, had to let it heal, but don't want to keep re-injuring it and all of that good stuff. So this guy, obviously gimbals let you hold them with 2 hands. I am always using it 2-handed, except maybe if I want to do a running shot like this or something, but pretty much always with 2 hands. And it makes a world of difference on my wrist. It's also very light, much lighter than a Steadicam, because the Steadicam is using balance and counterbalance and weights and stuff like that. So you basically have at least double your camera weight. This guy, not so much. So very light, very easy. I don't get tired out using it. A few weeks ago, I shot basically a 3-hour charity run. You can check out that video on my channel, the Myasthenia Gravis Association charity run. And on that same day, I also shot a cinematic portrait video with my friend Rayanne. And so I was basically using this guy for like 5 hours, and I was a little bit tired, but if I'd been using my Steadicam, my freaking arm would have fallen off. So like, this guy he's really a game changer in that way, just to protect my body. But how is the functionality? So I pretty much only use this in pan follow mode, because that gives you the most similar kind of feel to using a Steadicam and most similar shots. I don't like the weird spinny shots. I don't like it when the shots look overly digital, if you will. I can get like the rotating shots around people, follow people as they're walking, all that kind of stuff without getting a whole lot of weird like up and down and funky stuff going on. Because that's the last thing I want. I do not want funky stuff going on. I want people to kind of forget about the camera and just focus on the action. Even if I'm doing something cool like rotating around someone, I don't want them thinking about, ooh, wow, what a cool camera move, with extra spinning and weirdness and stuff like that. That's not the goal of what I do. I want to be highlighting the model or the actor or whatever I'm filming at the time. This guy does have some distinct advantages besides just the usability over a Steadicam. And one, low angle shooting. With a Steadicam, you literally have to like flip the thing upside down. It's really janky. You have to flip your footage in post. But this guy, you can go, low mode, all that kind of stuff, super easy, get it back on up. As long as it is balanced well, you're not gonna have issues, you're not gonna have weird stuff happen. I use the FX3 on it. I don't think this guy would work very well with like a Blackmagic camera, something like that, but as long as you've got like a Sony or Canon or Fujifilm or any of those like DSLR style bodies, it's gonna work really fantastically. It is really easy to balance. Typically I'm flying the FX3 with the Tamron 28-75, and that's a really easy balance. It's a nice and light setup. Typically, I balance it around the 50mm mark, and then if I need to change my focal length back and forth, really all I have to do is just recalibrate. I don't actually have to rebalance, just do a quick recalibration, and it works fantastic. It's very rare that I have issues where it's just super out of balance and I can't figure out what's going on. I have probably shot, a couple dozen projects with it since getting it, so I definitely feel much more comfortable with it than I did, when I first got it on kind of my first couple shoots with it. Like, I think the first shoot I did with it was that cool McLaren shoot where I had the model under the bridge and we did a lot of cool shots with her that you can check out on my channel. Super fun stuff. That was like right after the RS3 Mini came out. My first shoot with it, really cool. I've used it on a ton of shoots since, been really freaking awesome. It's so much nicer for walking shots than a Steadicam because you're not going to be affected by wind. You're not going to have to worry about it kind of starting to swing, weird stuff like that. And again, it's much easier on your wrists and arms. So if you've got like a long walking shot, super easy. It's pretty good for running as well. Typically I will have it in one hand and kind of run either alongside or forwards, or, you know, even if I need to kind of walk quickly backwards. So I do want to talk about kind of what environments it works well in, what it doesn't. A lot of this would also apply to a Steadicam. Obviously it works best on fairly even terrain where you're not having to worry too much about, you know, jumping over things or really funky stuff, or, you know, tripping, falling on your face. I did find when I was shooting in Hawaii that it was not necessarily the most effective on the beaches because you had a lot of big, jagged rocks. Away with you. If there's a rock, it's trying to kill me. You had a lot of big, jagged volcanic rock structures kind of by the water on the edge there. And so I couldn't get the type of long dynamic shots that I necessarily found super helpful with it. It was just as easy to, you know, go handheld, kind of rock back and forth, up and down, that kind of stuff, and not have to worry about any of the electronic issues that you might have with a gimbal. So particularly on the first kind of beach swimwear video that I released from Hawaii that you can check out on my channel, I did not use it much. On the second one, I was able to use it more, not entirely, but most of the video I shot with it because the rocks were a lot flatter, a lot easier, so I could get a lot more of those dynamic gimbal type shots on it, and it worked really, really well. I also typically don't use it too much at weddings. I know a lot of wedding videographers, some that I've edited for in the past, all day on the gimbal. I personally don't like that. I would much rather have more steady, clean, well-composed shots to work with on weddings. I did shoot one wedding with this guy, but I used it very, very minimally. Basically, first dance, open dances, and some of like the couple portraits session is pretty much the only times that I use this. The rest of the day I was on a monopod or handheld or on a tripod to get those nice clean shots. Now, if I had a second shooter who could handle those nice clean shots for me, then I'd absolutely feel more comfortable taking more risks to get more dynamic shots on this guy. But if that's like the only camera that's manned, I'm not going to risk, you know, ruining or missing shots. Honestly, that's the very, very same with the Steadicam. Environments where there's a lot of people, it's not necessarily the best because you don't have the room to like maneuver it into those, you know, more dynamic push in, pull out kinds of shots. You might be much better off and have more control going handheld or on a monopod or something like that where you can get those nice clean shots, but not necessarily like taking up a whole lot of space. Like I did a fitness commercial fairly recently where I brought it. I was going to use it a bunch, but I think I used it for like 4 or 5 shots because the gym was relatively small and it was packed full of like 15 people to give that really full kind of feel to it, but I just didn't have the room to maneuver, get cool shots with it. And so I opted to go much more handheld, much more on a monopod kind of a feel, because that was just gonna get me, again, more clean shots that were actually gonna be usable versus trying to do like fancy stuff, running into people, creating all kinds of havoc. Am I gonna completely switch to this guy from the Steadicam? I actually pretty much have. I think I've used the Steadicam once or twice since February. And honestly, it's been kind of clunky compared to this. So this guy, really good. As somebody who hated gimbals, I've fallen in love with this guy. He just works really well. I don't get too many weird jerky shots, not getting too many like up and down weird movements like I've experienced in the past. Typically responds pretty well when you're rotating and doesn't do crazy like whoop kind of stuff. So This guy definitely gets my full recommendation, genuinely. Like, you can just see how many videos I've shot with it on my channel. Anytime that I can use it, that it works for the environment that I'm working in, I use it. Have a fantastic day. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing, and I will catch you in the next video.